I've stressed numerous times throughout the years that people don't understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily factor into what I'm about to show you, but parallel this thought with what I'm about to show you and what I'll also say. So we're always seeking knowledge, which means you can accrue, you can gain knowledge. You'll never know everything. And that's what the difference between knowledge and wisdom is. You can't embody wisdom in this corporeal form, in our bipedal, sack of meat that carries our light. Most people haven't figured that out. And they talk about being so wise and wisdom this and wisdom that. There's a difference. There's a distinction. That's why wisdom is allocated, or more specifically associated with the divine, for fuck's sake. That's also why wisdom is associated with the Akashic Records, which is another name for the ether and all those other names. Chi, Prana, Vril, Etherions, and all those other things. Also remember, Vril has to do with a Vril society that never existed. But you might have heard of it, which is why I use it. Let's see if this disappeared. I just wanted to see if it would.
Body has what they call.
Okay, good. It didn't. The reason I'm jumping in here is parallel what I just said. To some degree, at least. Ladies and gentlemen, the internet has rediscovered the fucking lymphatic system, and it's being circulated on the internet a lot right now. A hell of a lot. Doesn't mean somebody fucking did rediscover this, but our masters probably left something online, spoon-fed it to all the dumb fucks in the on the respective social engineering platforms. Maybe I shouldn't have said respective, but on the social engineering platforms, social media, in the feeds, or probably the feeds of people who aren't censored and all that other shit. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, just the same. And now it's being circulated. This has been popping up a lot lately. Now, the reason that I think this is popping up is because there's a propaganda campaign coinciding with this, which claims that the immune system doesn't exist. In fact, it's a lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is but a gear, but part of the immune system. The people who repeat that shit, the propaganda, mind you, they clearly do not understand a single fucking thing, which is why they're circulating the propaganda. It's also why I stress that, stress a lot online, in case you're new here and or you're just not paying attention. People repost, they regurgitate, in other words, they don't research. If you put in the time, you got how many organs in your body? All of those are part of your fucking immune system. The lymphatic system is part of that. This explanation's pretty fucking great. It's not bad by any measure. It's one of the better ones I've seen online, and I'll play this video in a second. And this works in tandem with a number of different things. What is it? I think your adrenals are above your kidneys, which means those govern your kidneys. So if you hear about kidneys affecting your lymphatic system, the adrenals are part of that. All of that is also connected with your liver. And this is what I mean by the organs are connected to this shit. He's also going to use an analogy in here about a pump. And he's going to tell you that the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump of its own. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt if you want. What's also being circulated online, and you might have heard of it. Let's see if this will keep, and I'll point out something else. It's some superficial shit in a superficial book. The Cosmic Heart. This shit. Anytime you hear cosmic, galactic, what's another one? Anytime you hear some flowery fucking shit having to do with Photoshop space, keep in mind, I'm not a proponent of the flat earth. I'm not a proponent of the globe theory. Can't use either of them as a tool. Neither of them reflect reality as a whole. Both are fucking propaganda. But dumb fucking people repeat that shit as if it were, the bee's knees. So this shit regurgitates some of the most superficial crap that you'll hear under the sun having to do with how you and I function. To simplify that, do you guys understand how the lungs and the heart work, crudely speaking? Before appreciating that, you need to think about arteries and veins. And keep in mind, I do flip things in my head, so if I ever say it backwards, correct me. Tell me that I was a dumb fuck, I need to pull my head out of my ass, and I flipped it. It could happen. Arteries are going to pull blood away from your heart, and the veins are going to bring the blood to your heart. Okay? Then your heart's going to work as a fucking valve. And your lungs, as they do what? They oscillate. That works as the pump. They're quite literally pumping. Just think about it. We're inhaling, we're exhaling. This is movement and repose. These are two different states because it's a binary system. Everything we fucking do functions under this. It's all governed by these two fundamental principles of reality. So if you know anybody claiming to be non-binary, they're not only a wet fart, they're dumb as fuck, and they're circulating a propaganda campaign. And there's nothing but proof of it. If they get hot and cold, obviously they're a dumb fuck. If they wake up and go to bed, and sleep, they're a dumb fuck. These are two different states. If you eat and you shit, yeah? Do you blink your eyes? That's not the best example, but it's the same difference. It's the same fucking difference. You're breathing. Your heart's beating. This means you're binary. This is also part of how the immune system works. All of these things are in tandem. You could think of viruses that enter in through your eyes, primarily speaking, and then they would affect your immune system based on how well you're eating, based on diet. There's a lot more to it, like I said. But there's a propaganda campaign. Now let's see if, at long last, Instagram LifeLog 2.0 hasn't ditched this video. Oh, look, it's Rob Lowe, a Zionist puppet. Here, sidebar. Is Rob Lowe Jewish? Lowe was baptized, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't tell me anything specific. Just because it says Scottish and Welsh doesn't mean that he doesn't have ties. He may not. Some of these celebrity puppets don't openly claim that they are, just like Harrison Ford didn't used to, and now it's a mainstay on the internet. It says state tax, blah, 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 anti-Semitic remarks. Who knows? Oh, what's this one say? I'll come back to what I was getting at in a minute. Landau, pardon me. Either way, a great majority of them are, and usually if you watch some of the propaganda, I'm talking about movies on the big screen or shows on the box or vice versa these days, there's a very good chance you're going to see a bunch of Zionist puppets, but some of them are in fact, the bargain bin version of Jewish. Back to point. 1 second.
Phase 4, which is allopathic MD directed.
People don't have an attention span, so I'm fucking with you. Well, partially. I'm also trying to tell you a bunch of shit. Here's some space propaganda I should show you too.
I'd rather get you little buckaroos one at a time. Yeehaw! Yeehaw! Newton, cowboy!
And somebody really, really dumb left that online 5 days ago. I had to eat some burrito, pardon me. Where's it at? Here we go.
Body has what they call a lymph system. The lymph system is like the garbage collector that comes to your neighborhood and picks up the garbage. So the lymph system do nothing but pick up filth out of the bloodstream.
Does.
Now, lymph system have 45 pints of fluid, but no pump. There's no pump. So now, the blood, you have 13 pints and a pump.
Needs to be stimulated.
You okay?
Right.
Now, if I came to your house today to a party and there was 1,000 people and we all used your toilet and didn't flush the chain, it would overflow in your house, right? So when you don't get exercise, the lymph system, the poison overflows. Body has what they call a
Here, let's hear it twice, right?
lymph system. Body has what they call a lymph system. The lymph system is like the garbage collector that comes to your neighborhood and picks up the garbage. So the lymph system do nothing but pick up filth out of the bloodstream, out of the system. Now, lymph system have 45 pints of fluid, but no pump. There's no pump. So now, the blood, you have 13 pints and a pump.
Needs to be stimulated.
You can
Now, did you catch the propaganda in there? What did I say earlier? The heart is a fucking valve. That's misdirection. That's wrong. It's not how our bodies work. The other jazz having to do with the lymph system in many ways does hold up. Yeah. I was going to get into the fact that, again, we breathe in and we breathe out. This is also affecting the lymph system. So in terms of it not having a pump, I mean, everything having to do with our bodies is oscillating at all times. I mean, do you have respiration when you sleep? Are you breathing when you're awake? It means your body's fucking oscillating, affecting this jazz. Most likely what he was referring to is the fact that it's contained within, these canals, so to speak, kind of like the blood in our veins. Roughly enough. I imagine that's the mindset that he's coming from. And what he's talking about when he says waste, this is the snot, this is all that crap, the mucus. This is also subject to inflammation. And again, this goes back to, if you have a fucking shitty diet, it's going to affect this. So my time frames are pretty wonky. But what I should say is, so there was the agenda, from 2020 to present day. This year is allegedly, the calendar cycle is allegedly 2024 right now. And over the last 4 years, I have not been kind to myself. I've been trying to reverse some things because I leaned heavily on drinking too much fucking coffee, too many fucking stouts, wasn't sleeping well, bitter as fuck because everywhere I went, there wasn't a day I could leave the house and not bump into a dumb fuck who was supporting these agendas that were in many ways discriminating and oppressing people. I mean, here in Portland, numerous businesses did buy into segregation. You couldn't enter their premises unless you had done something that the government told you had to do, but technically you didn't have to do. And it wasn't a good idea. Obviously, if people were paying attention now, a lot of people are crying about it. A lot of people made a poor choice. What the fuck do I know? Just the same. I made some really stupid choices, and at one point, and it fluctuated again, because everything comes in waves, not unlike our bodies oscillating. We're the microcosm of the macrocosm in a number of ways. But I had far too much mucus is part of the problem. I cut out dairy and meats and all that other stuff, and it went away. Took a while, but it went away. Keep in mind, tonight, I'm eating some chicken because I've also been fasting fairly recently to try to fix some other stuff. And some of it's working, some of it's maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But I've cleaned up the body being a temple in a number of ways. And the initial steps of this had to do with the lymphatic system, but more importantly, my immune system as a whole. So one of the ways our masters have us, or how they're trying to fuck people over right now, and not necessarily this message, but what people are circulating, like I began this with, in terms of the lymphatic system, and how they're claiming that there isn't an immune system. All we have is a lymphatic system. It's a goddamn joke. What I want you to parallel with that thought is you have all these doctors out there who are specialists. Typically speaking, in the States here in America, you have to go to your primary doctor. You have to initially make that doctor your primary doctor, which means you have to go through a bunch of bullshit visits before you can even address the issue that you need to tackle. I had to do this having to do with these issues that I was talking about because I had to reinstate, or however they fucking call it. I jumped from one doctor to another doctor is what I did. So I had to establish care. That's what it was, I think, as a primary doctor. And then once you do that, you can address some issues, but not too many because they're overworked. So they don't have enough time to talk to you, typically speaking. So they rush things. They don't think about things. They don't ask thoughtful, careful questions, typically speaking. And that's one of the flaws. But the thing I wanted you to parallel with is they don't know shit, typically speaking. The initial doctor doesn't know shit. This is like calling Comcast, and first you talk to the IVR system, the robot, that's unhelpful. Then you talk to people who claim that they're customer service, and many of them believe this, even though if you talk to them long enough, they're going to say, well, I'd also like to talk to you about our phone plan, and do you have this? Do you have that? They're going to try to sell you on something because they're the sales team and they don't know it. It's about that good. Very similar to what your doctor is going to do. because your doctor is going to try to prescribe you something. They're going to try to send you to a pharmacy. They're going to push big pharma is what they're going to do, because that's what they do. That's their job. So if they give you a referral, usually, and this is the thing, you're going to go to multiple fucking specialists, and none of them understand or are allowed to talk about the other respective portions of the human body that are contributing to this issue. Now, if you're pretty fucked up, or if you're, truly going through shit, it's not isolated to one specialist. These specialists aren't in the same room. They're not in the same fucking location. They're not privy to what you're fucking talking about, which means it's disconnected. I never say the word right. It's compartmentalized. I never say it fucking right. It's how the government segregates in one way. That's not a great word for it, but how they separate projects so that people don't know what they're building. You could think of the movie Cube from, I don't remember what year it came out. I want to say it was late 90s, but I might be wrong. And that's how they claim that where they are was built by a bunch of assholes who didn't know what they were building, but they were told to build a corner, so they built a corner. Another set of assholes was told to build a floor, so they constructed a floor. Somebody else put those two things together, didn't know where they came from, had no idea what it's going to look like, but they put it together. That was their fucking job. That's how this shit works. But when it comes to health, it doesn't work. And what people are shopping around is no different than this. That's why they're being trained to think in terms of these narrow parameters. But what the fuck do I know? This will probably be censored on YouTube as medical misinformation based on their policies and standards. The lack of standards. And all the wrong fucking people who moderate YouTube. Again, what the fuck do I know? Here's an example. It's not the best example, but tonight I was in an emergency room, and in terms of a scale, I'm not dead. Part of the issue is my blood is too thin at the moment. So I'm way in the fuck over here. So this would be blood clots. This would be thin blood. I'm on the cusp right there. So after talking to these idiots, they tried to give me ibuprofen and Tylenol, which I rejected. They looked at me like I was a dirtbag for saying I didn't want it. But none of them told me to find something with vitamin K in it and balance the fucking shit out. Because big pharma. Here's an additional thought. I mentioned this tonight because this is good for kidneys. It's diuretic as far as I'm aware, which would mean it's good for kidneys if you're going through bullshit. And if you're having filtration issues, that's going to help to some degree. In theory, depending on all the variables, again, having to do with an immune system. What I was going to spit out is, I haven't looked it up, but that may be a blood thinner. I'm not sure if it is. I know red sage is, vitamin E, turmeric, things like that. And some of that's in my system. That's also what tripped me up, was I just have too much of it in my system. When I eat oatmeal, usually I'll put turmeric in there, because it's like eating the mush you have in the Matrix movie. I shit you not. So I put turmeric on top of there, and I usually take a shot of olive oil, because if you don't do that, it won't activate what's in the turmeric to do what it should do. But these are the things that thinned out my blood, is my point. I mentioned this to the doctor that showed up. He was very sweet. He had no idea what this is. And you can't know every single herb. But I did mention a few things, and he flat out told me that's not really, he had no fucking clue. Which is another reason why nobody told me to get some vitamin K to try to balance this process, which is a very simple thing to do. Eat some kale, eat some broccoli. What do you have? I tried to see if I had some kale. The little bit in the bag had rotted out. It was wet, nasty, so I just threw it out. The frozen broccoli is kind of old, but it doesn't look horrible, so that's the plan. Hopefully it works, and then tomorrow, if not, I'll go out and I'll try to fetch some of the other stuff. The point is you and I have to put in the legwork and try to figure this shit out. The system at large is not in place to help us in any form or fucking way. And look at how many people trust in it. Look at how many people think that they can use it to change the system. Doesn't make any sense. It's foolish. It's naive. But most people you and I are surrounded by are. One last time, I think. What the fuck do I know? And this will probably be censored. I imagine YouTube will. Before I go, my Obsidian Monarch account right now is censored because I left things like this online. More specifically, having to do with it's technically considered the fourth house. This is me telling you what it is without using the word. The fourth house in terms of, astrology, the one that looks like a 69. That one. It had to do with that and how to help you. And it was flagged as medical misinformation. So I can't post until November on there. If I post this and they delete this, you won't know why I'm not posting, but most people don't fucking care. This is going on the Kien one, which is the mirror and the reflection. And pardon my eczema. Again, this is another thing I'm trying to figure out with this shit, which is why I've been focused on the kidneys, because usually this is a sign of poor filtration. It's also a sign of excess sodium in your system, usually. Which is why I keep babbling about you got to have potassium and magnesium to balance this out. The sodium comes out of your system slower than potassium. I forget how long it takes for your magnesium to get shuffled out, but the sodium can last in your system for up to 3 days. So if you're packing it in every day, it's going to take a lot longer to get rid of it. And that's very well what I'm dealing with still. Could be just the excess of the sodium, because I went on a fasting spree and I was using canned soups, which was a bad idea, but I was poor at the time. So that's one of the things I could do. I bought a bunch during a sale, so I was eating a surplus of that shit, and I overdid the salts. Despite the fact that I was eating, some potassium, some magnesium, but it didn't do the trick. Either way.